that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, insofar as sound goes, if I'm down with my head, does that hurt your sound quality?
No, it's okay. Just try not to move around too much. Please.
If you break into song, give him a cue.
My question would be to you right off the bat is why, after so many years of silence, never having a media interview, and people have said that you have given them interviews in years
Well, that's
past.
hogwash.
Yeah.
That's strictly hogwash.
So we're saying
I'm
today,
constantly told that I'm misquoted constantly, saying that I said this and I said that, and it's not happened.
so it's pretty well established on this. This is the first time you're speaking publicly about your case.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always felt that my attorneys were handling it, and they said to keep a low profile and stay away from it. And in light of all that has been used against me in the media, they've created this fantasy monster image, and it's been going on for the last 12 years. And I've ever had no comment, and I had no need to talk to the media for the simple reason that they were looking for sensationalism and they were looking for the monster.
When you say fantasy monster image, what are you referring to by that?
Well, the idea that I'm a homosexual thrill killer and all that garbage, and they painted this image of me that like I strolled down the streets and stalked young boys and slaughtered them. Hell, if you could see my schedule, my work schedule, you know damn well that I was never out there.
Well, you were indicted, convicted, and sentenced on 33 counts of homicide. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's the way I'd like to start, and I'd like to kind of go
What do
through
you got there? Let's see your list.
Well, I just like to go through the generalities, maybe talk about the background of the thing, the original case.
Bleeping of the language, I will watch the language.
Yeah, he's gonna try. John does tend to slip into.
Well, I call it as I see it, and some people can't understand that.
Now, give me kind of just an overview of the business that you eventually established, the construction work. Is this self-taught then, the construction and maintenance work?
I started doing painting, and then I started doing wallpapering and decorating. And inside of 3 years, PDM, which is painting, decorating, and maintenance, was doing $1 million a year.
And that was.
And I only had 4 employees.
Yeah, and that was the business you were in at the time of the arrests.
That's correct. PDM in 1974 became a corporation, and then I owned PDM Contractors Corporation. I owned PDM Plumbing, PDM Concrete, and PDM Decorating. And then I branched off with another partner into Rafco Construction. And from there, we were doing strictly drugstores.
Police have been watching John Gacy's suburban Chicago home for the past 10 days. They became suspicious when 15-year-old Robert Peast disappeared after he allegedly was last seen with Gacy.
Now, they did not search the house at that time or look through the house?
No. According afterwards, they're claiming that they came to the front door of the house and knocked on the door and that I hid from them.
Why didn't you let them in at that time when they were knocking at the front door?
There was no way I could have heard them. I was way in the back of the house, in the rec room, on the telephone. When they finally walked around the side of the house, I could look out the picture window, see them there, because I was on the phone, and they could see me clearly too, sitting on the couch on the telephone, because I was talking to my sister in regards to a death in our family. So I told her that I would call her back, got up, went to the door, and he introduced himself as cousin Zach and Piquel, and they wanted to come in and talk to me about Robert Peast. And I had told him that I had not had any conversation with him, but I said, if you want to talk to me, then come back there. They wanted me to come down to the police station. Okay, well, I didn't have time because I was doing work for the county and stuff like that. And into the police station finally on the next day. This was after cousin Zach and Piquel were at the house. They had asked me to come in and give me an account of my whereabouts. The thing of it is that on that same day, they held me there for 9 hours, and while holding me there for 9 hours, they executed a search warrant. The first search warrant was executed on December 13th. That is the search warrant where they claimed they went through the house looking for Robert Peast. It was written up to be looking for Robert Peast, and Robert Peast wasn't there.
the police had focused in on you as being the suspect in the missing boy, and eventually
well, they were following me around.
following you.
Yeah, constantly. And on December 13th, I had made a statement to the police department, and from that date forward, they had me under surveillance. The only trouble is that the Mickey Mouse way they were doing it, they had 2 cars following me day and night, and they had trouble keeping up with me, so I used to go out to the car in the morning and tell them where I was going, so in case I got lost. Because at the time I was doing 5 construction jobs in 5 parts of the city. So in essence, I was all over the place. But this was like Keystone Cops trying to follow me around.
Rosalind Carter was in Chicago last May for a Polish observance. There was a parade, and one of the parade coordinators was John Wayne Gacy. Gacy also attended the private reception where this picture of him meeting the First Lady was taken. The emblem on Gacy's jacket indicates he had Secret Service clearance, even though he was convicted of a sex offense in 1968.
There's that one photograph of you and Rosalind Carter.
Yeah, Mrs. Rosalind Carter. Well, the Secret Service tries to cover it up and said, well, we don't know how he got into the picture. Hell, I was in charge of the reception. I had to stand at the door and let them know which politicians were allowed in and which ones weren't. The thing of it is, but the Secret Service wanted to cover up and make it sound like that I had no business there. I was cleared, and I was with the Secret Service at the time and setting up the parade route and everything, because I used to set up the parades for the Polish Alliance. And then for 3 years in a row, I had set up the parades to run. And, you know, that's a big feat, getting 20,000 Polish people to go in one direction at one time. The subdivision where the Summerdale house is located is built on a clay field. And when it rained, the rain would come down from both ends and would flood from one house to the other. The crawl space would fill up with water. In 1976, I asked a landscaper, I said, what do you do for that sour odor of clay? And he said, spread white lime, just regular masonry lime. On the ground, he said, it'll sweeten up the clay and you won't have that odor. It's sort of like what charcoal does in filtering things. That's why the lime was spread in the crawl space.
How much lime was spread down there eventually?
I think 700 or 800 pounds of it. The first search warrant was executed on December 13th. However, what is strange is you had 20 trained officers that came into that house, supposedly went down in the crawl space, crawled around. There was no mounds of dirt, there was no odor, there was no nothing. I never feared anybody going down the crawl space.
John Wayne Gacy was also Pogo the Clown, who loved to make kids laugh. He was married twice, divorced twice, and had 2 children. A Democratic Party precinct worker with political connections. His neighbors knew him as Johnny.
The clowning was relaxation for me. I enjoyed entertaining kids. Like some people are, you know, they unwind in different ways, either by going out drinking or that. I could put on clown makeup and I was relaxed. And I enjoyed doing it. It was only twice a month that I did it.
Yeah, this was not used then for a lure to draw kids to you as
No, we would visit different hospitals and entertain the children there. And we didn't entertain them with handcuffs or anything like that. All we used was balloon animals and small toys and stuff like that. But we also did parades. And in the summertime, like on 4th of July, I used to be in 4 parades in one day. I've always told people when I got into clown makeup, I regressed into childhood. It was fun being a clown because you could be yourself or just let yourself go and act a fool. You could be slapstick and funny and have a good time. That's why I always enjoyed clowning. Clowning has taken a bad name because of what they've used in my case.
On a historical note, your Iowa conviction goes back to what year was that?
1968.
68. And what was, just in a nutshell, you know, without getting in too deeply, what was the basis of the Iowa conviction?
The basis of it was a sodomy conviction. It's the only thing I ever was sentenced to was a sodomy conviction. They're claiming that the state representative's son, who was on the other party, he claims that he was sexually abused by me. And in essence, he was blackmailing me for it. Now, what it boiled down to was oral copulation. And it was consensual. I moved to Waterloo, Iowa. I was honored as Man of the Year because besides working full-time, I also, I was the chaplain for the JCs and also ran the membership campaign. And of course, we used pornography. We had stag shows, and that's how we increased the membership from 150 to 400 members in that JC chapter. We were dealing with porno films, and we had a girl set up in a room in that. So it was, the thing to do. We were boosting membership from it. So nobody said a word about it. At the time, this young individual made the charge at me. He was blackmailing me. He wanted more and more money. He said, look, I gave you a blowjob. Now you got to pay for this. I said, go see your father. He wasn't getting along with his father. But they came down heavy on me.
John, you had mentioned that you could never really please him, that he had talked of you in
and I did not
derogatory
hate
terms.
I didn't hate my dad either.
But you did have a hard upbringing with him, did you not?
My dad came from the old country, limited education, but he was a good provider and with strong will and strong views. He was also an alcoholic, sorry to say.
Was he abusive? Did he strike out at you from time to
When
time?
he drank, he was almost like a different person. My dad struck all of his children all the time.
When you paroled out, where did you establish your residency?
I was under the interstate compact. I was paroled back to Illinois.
Mm-hmm. And you went to Springfield first, did you not?
No.
No?
Directly to Chicago
Directly to
because
Chicago.
I had a job working at Bruno's restaurant. That was a requirement of interstate compact transfer. You had to have a job and a place to stay. I moved in with my mother in the condominium. My dad had just passed away. So I lived with my mother.
Okay.
And worked at Bruno's as a chef. When I first got out on parole, for the next 2 years, I stayed with Bruno's restaurant, and I worked for them. But on the side, I used to go in at 4 in the morning and get off at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and to me that was too short of a day, not enough work. So I started doing odd jobs painting, and I found that on the weekends, the afternoons and the weekends, I was making more money than I was as a chef. Even though I was getting 12-something an hour. I borrowed $600 from my mother, and through odd jobs, I left the chef business. I owned PDM Contractors. PDM was able to work 52 weeks out of the year, while most construction companies shut down for the winter. I never had time to shut down because I had them on the waiting list. Our business was growing at that rapid rate. Summerdale House was rented to PDM Contractors, and like the living room was the front office. The dining room of that house was like a boardroom because it was an 8 by 10-foot table with big captain's chairs because we use it as a boardroom for meetings.
The media has called you a homosexual killer. What is your position on homosexuality?
I have nothing against it. I'm an outspoken liberal. I don't care for the labeling. I don't care for any labeling for that fact.
Do you claim homosexuality?
No, I would definitely not be homosexual. I have nothing against what they do, and I don't deny that I've engaged in sex with males, but that I'm bisexual.
You're bisexual?
Right. My preference is women, and I've been married enough times and have children, and I see nothing wrong with it. Insofar as being bisexual, if I wanted to engage in sex, Rossi and Cram were willing to go down on me anytime I wanted to, providing they were given stuff. I was married twice, and just because I didn't get along in the marriages, my marriages went down the drain only because I was a workaholic, working 7 days a week in that. My dad had conservative values, If you were out after midnight, you were up to no good. My dad did not believe it. If you were out after dark and you didn't leave a phone number, you were up to no good. So I think that's why I tended to go that way more, just to be the opposite of him. There was 12 keys out to the house.
12 sets of keys?
12 sets of keys. Anybody working for PDM contractors had a set of keys for the house. So you could come and go when you wanted. And of course, my neighbors would keep me informed. They would inform me, God, while you were out of town, they must have been partying all night there.
Who is Rossi?
Michael Rossi was an employee of PDM.
Mm-hmm. And how old was he at the time? Who was he?
He was 20 years old.
Gacy had been a successful building contractor.
A volunteer for the local JCs who entertained children as Pogo the Clown.
He is charged with murder.
Now, when the search warrants were effected in your case, they did find an awful lot in the crawl space of your home, did they not?
Well, yeah, I had offered to sell him the house because I thought there was nothing down in the crawl space.
Yeah.
I had never had any qualms about him going down in the crawl space.
Well, how many bodies were actually located on the property, and where?
To my understanding, there was a total of 29 bodies or 28 bodies were found on the property. 26, 27 of them under the house.
And the rest?
One was under the driveway, one was under the garage. So that makes a total of 29.
Okay. Now, from the standpoint of the arrest, when you were arrested in this matter,
It snowballed.
It snowballed. Okay. What was the date of that arrest? Do you recall?
December 22nd, 1978 is when I was arrested. The rope trick is not, the way I've described the rope trick is it's nothing more than a tourniquet. And I had explained it to them. I even demonstrated it to them. It would cut off the air. So if you're going to kill somebody, you just put it on their neck and twist it 3 times or 4 times or whatever until the person stopped moving.
And you took him where?
Out on the I-55 bridge.
And that's where, how was he then taken from the car and placed into the river?
Just opened up the trunk and dumped him in.
Okay.
There was no big special deal on it. I couldn't get down in the crawl space that easy, and then I had to bum back to begin with. You got to crawl on your belly to move around in the crawl space. There is no way that I could have done any of the digging down there. I had enough trouble just getting down there. Gregory Godsick, let's see, number 4. Gregory Godsick had come to work for me in according to this, 1976. He came to us through Taft High School through a program. He had worked for Republic Lumber Company, and then he came to work for us. My encounters were always by happen chance. If you pull up at a stoplight and there's somebody standing there waiting for a bus, if you give them a ride, and if you ask them whether, do you get in anything or you want drugs or something like that, that's how it happened. I'm not the monster image that's been portrayed of me. And the only way you can make a monster image is to make it look like I stalked the streets and picked up altar boys off the street. They want to make them look like innocent babes in the woods, and I was swatting them like flies.